Hello everyone, welcome to another edition of the Kaiju Kingdom podcast. We are your hosts,
Jessica!
And I am Chris Eaton. And Jessica, an exciting episode today. We have a very special guest.
Yes, we do. I'm really, really excited.
So, this man is a renowned author. He has pretty much redefined the Kaiju genre for the printed word, if you will. Sir, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Jeremy Robinson.
And for those who don't know, what's the name of your line of books that you do?
Well, I actually have more than 50 books, but the books in question tonight, I believe, are the Kaiju books, which is the first book is Project Nemesis, the second is Project Mygo, the third is Project 731, and the new one out just a few weeks ago is Project Hyperion.
So,
yes, I believe people call your books Kaiju thrillers.
Yeah, that's the term I came up with a couple of years ago to define the genre.
Well, yeah,
for the subgenre.
Yeah, because I just I recently picked up Project Nemesis for the first time on recommendation of a friend, and I find when we found out you were going to come on, it gave me a good reason to plow right through it. And hey, I got it done in 2 days, and that's saying something. As I haven't read a book that fast in a long, long time.
Nor have I.
So not only do you have you got a new book out, but Project Nemesis is getting a comic book, is it not?
It is, and it comes out in a few days on the 7th, October 7th.
And Kaiju artist renowned, I call him the Kaiju gangster, Matt Frank is providing the interior art for that, is he not?
Yes, and Matt has done drawings or sketches of Nemesis ever since the first book. When he did his first Godzilla comic, I picked it up, and that was around the same time that I was starting on Nemesis, and I just thought his style fit perfectly. So I got in touch with him back then, and he's been doing the character designs for all the monsters ever since.
Now, what led to what sprung up? Because as you said, you've written over 50 books now, and I've looked through your catalog. That you got a lot of adventure, techno thrillers, if you will. Kaiju's, what brought this about?
Well, I've always been a fan of Kaiju. I grew up watching Creature Double Feature and watching Godzilla, and so giant monsters has always been part of the influence on me. And for some reason, it never occurred to me that was something I could do in a novel. So, I started out with smaller creatures of aliens and mythical creatures, but I didn't really think of the Kaiju until someone a few years ago said, well, if you like Godzilla so much, why don't you just write something like that? And I was like, oh, I never really thought of that. So once it got in my head, I've now written 4 Kaiju books, and I have a 5th one on the way, which is not part of the Nemesis series. It's called The Apocalypse Machine.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Yeah, it's a much more serious story than Nemesis is.
Which is saying much.
Probably because I kill everyone. But.
Well, I mean, there is a hefty bit of carnage in the Nemesis in the first Nemesis book, as there is, which is one of one of the more interesting things when I sat down and read this book was just because here's the thing with Kaiju movies. I mean, occasionally you'll get a monster that'll eat people, like the Green Gargantua, but they're never really full on attacking people for just kind of vindictive reasons. It's usually they're in the way, something happens. Yeah. With Nemesis, you get really detailed with some horrendous things that happen to some people.
Yep.
Which
that was.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I don't know why I did that. because I wanted to show all sides of the story, and I started writing it in first person, and then realized that I really want to get to know the creature. So I actually wrote some from her perspective, and then I really wanted to experience in a very personal way the deaths of many of her victims. So yeah, I spend a chapter with a lot of the victims and then watch them get eaten.
Yeah, there's the one particular chapter where that small town, I believe it's in New Hampshire, if I'm recalling right, that just tears right through it, and
very detailed description of I think the mayor.
Yeah, getting eaten and dumped into, which
I actually just saw that page of the second issue of the comic book, and it's just as gross as it is in the book.
Well, you beat, I believe you beat Attack on Titan to the whole devouring thing inside the stomach by about a year. So.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So
it's always nice to beat other people to something.
And for your kaijus, are they creatures that you kind of, I would say, imagine yourself, or was it like a chimera where you kind of piece different things from mediums that you've liked or animals that you like? How did you come up with your idea for your kaijus and how they look like?
For Nemesis, it was a lot of the look and feel that I wanted for her was like a xenomorph from Alien, like kaiju size. And we went back and forth with a lot of ideas, but I really wanted her to be iconic and easy to remember. Something that was as cool as Godzilla, but also separate from Godzilla. So I think the glowing membranes that she has really separates her from other kaiju, and that they explode as well.
Well, which is interesting because when you see American people try to interpret giant monsters, usually they kind of try to put themselves in the Japanese. Just take a already existing creature and make it bigger with more fangs. Nemesis really does feel like a Japanese monster, especially with the description you give with the long neck, the scales, the carapace, and especially the glowing membranes. That has a very kind of almost 90s Toho-esque look to it.
Right.
So
yeah, and that's all been an influence on me my whole life, really. Godzilla's been around for as long as I can remember. I'm not that old.
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously we're sitting here talking, so we all love Godzilla. So
yeah.
I want to kind of pick your brain a little bit on some of the other details. You got a little bit of I've read ahead on a few things for your other books, but I haven't read them yet. So I'm kind of just to familiarize myself with your world that you created here. First off, it looks like with you're kind of, it seems like you're building to like a big Avengers-esque crossover from your other books, from what I've read.
Yes. And I am, and I've actually been building towards that in a couple of different series of books for 10 years.
Wow.
And I have seen some recent complaints about it. In one review for Hyperion, someone noted that was happening and that they didn't enjoy it. And I get that, but it's really for the fans who have been reading me for the last 10 years.
Oh yeah.
Who have been asking for all their favorite heroes to somehow meet. So the fifth Nemesis book, Project Legion, is my answer to that, and it will really bring together characters from most of my novels into one big overarching comic book style crossover event. And I can only really do that once. I'm not going to continue to do that.
You're not going to do what the Fast and Furious series did, where they had the big crossover part 5, and then just like, where do we go from here? Well, we just keep running and just make it more and more insane as we go along. There's only so far you can go until you reach a breaking point. Right,
and with Nemesis, every book gets a little bit more crazy in terms of like the number of kaiju and the giant robots and all sorts of other big crazy things that happen. So in the fifth book, I mean, it's like everything that you could possibly want in a giant monster story, all thrown at you in one book. And I don't really want to try and top that. because it would just get ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think book 5 of Nemesis will be the last book, at least for this story arc of Nemesis. And then maybe it'll get some kind of reboot, but I'm definitely not going to try and build on the next book.
Okay, so you know when to go out on top, so that sort of thing. Which,
yeah, and it's going to be hard to write.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, because I mean, it's Nemesis, from what I've seen, has gathered a fairly large fan base online. From what I can tell, that people absolutely love these books.
Yeah, and I think it's because I love these books.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times, like the book I'm writing now, it's very serious and it's hard. And when I write Nemesis, it's like going on vacation. It's like being in my living room again when I was a kid, sitting in front of the TV, drawing Godzilla and watching Godzilla. That's what it feels like to me to write Nemesis. So it's a lot of fun, and I think fans are picking up on that and having that kind of fun when they read it.
Now, again, I'm trying to word this. So you're writing. You said you got 50 books under your belt.
Yeah.
You know, as a guy who's tried to write in the past and failed horribly at it, does the creativity just flow? I mean, does it? I mean, when you're writing, because I've seen you got like various different genres, and I'm assuming that it comes from many passions in your life. When you're writing something like Nemesis, do you have to get in a certain frame of mind, or do you have to, or is it just something that just flows right out of you like anything else?
Because you've written so many books, so we were wondering what your process is like and how quick your books come.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jessica.
It's really different for every book. Nemesis is kind of just flows right out of me. That's kind of where my brain just exists. Mm-hmm. Other books are a little bit harder depending on the subject matter. It involves a lot of research. My novels, Second World and Island 731, both had World War II plot lines, so I had to do a lot of research into World War II and a lot of really horrific things that happened during those wars. So that slows you down when you have to research that stuff. With Nemesis, I'm really just making stuff up and putting it in the real world that I exist in and don't need to research. It also takes place in New England, where I live, so I don't have to go look up every town that I'm destroying. I can just write it from experience.
It's like, hey, I've been here. Let's knock it down.
Yeah, I destroyed some of my favorite landmarks, and earlier this year in June, we had our first Robinson Fest, which was surreal, but it happened. And so people came from all over the world, and we got together here in New Hampshire, and we visited a lot of the locations that I feature in my books. And we actually went on the cruise ship that Nemesis destroyed and eat someone. So we got to do like a Nemesis cruise and visited a lot of the places in Beverly, Massachusetts that are featured in the book, including the FCP headquarters. So yeah, it's much easier to write Nemesis because of all that, and because so much of it is fantastical. So yeah, it really depends on if I'm writing something that is like real world accurate in terms of history and science and things like that. Science can be really tricky. Say that? What?
Oh no, I was gonna say that was so cool because I'm still thinking about Robinson Fest and how that kind of came about.
Well, we're doing another one. How did it come about? I don't remember. I think someone suggested it, and I mentioned it maybe on Facebook, and a lot of people replied that they would be interested in that. So we kind of toyed around with the idea for a couple of years and just decided to go for it this year. And people came, and I think even more people will come next year because there were a lot of jealous people when they saw the photos from this year. So next year will be good. We're trying to, it'll probably be up in the northern woods of New Hampshire, where some of the other books are featured. So we'll get to see those as well, and maybe do some paintball target practice or who knows what.
Now, when did you get into writing? I kind of want to get into your past a little bit here.
It's kind of an interesting process. I grew up going to normal school and being forced to read horrible books that I thought were horrible when I was a kid, and I still think are horrible now. They're boring. So for most of my life, I hated reading.
Wow.
And yeah, in high school, I got into comic books.
Yes.
That lasted through college. And I went to school for art and illustration. So that's what my education was. And I started doing indie comic books as an artist after college. And it was around that time where I was working on a comic book and they asked me to do a little bit of writing on it that I kind of had this epiphany that all the art that I had been doing my whole life was really telling stories. So around that time, I had the epiphany was that I was a storyteller, not necessarily a writer, but a storyteller. So I started working on screenplays for movies, and I did that for, 10 years. We moved out to Los Angeles. I had some stuff optioned. And while I was living in Los Angeles, so I'm 30 now, and still not a fan of reading novels.
You're only 30? Oh my God, I feel like I've wasted my life.
No. I'm not 30 now. I'm 30 in the story.
Oh, okay.
So
10
10
I was
years
about
ago.
to say, like, wait a minute.
No,
like,
10 years ago.
Okay.
I'm 30, and for some reason picked up a novel. Maybe I was on a plane, and it was James Rollins' novel Subterranean, which takes place beneath Antarctica, and there's dinosaurs and ancient civilizations and things like that. And I kind of had this realization, like, oh, people write good novels, and they write about things that I'm interested in. And so I had never really even considered writing a novel until then. So I started reading novels a lot, and after reading maybe a dozen, I decided I would try writing one. So I did. I read Strunk and White's Grammar Guide, and I think Stephen King's On Writing, and then I wrote the first novel. And that one I self-published.
Which book was that?
And that was The Didymus Contingency.
Okay.
And then I self-published four of my books, and they sold well enough that my publisher, Thomas Dunn, noticed, and they called me up and made me an offer. And since then, I've had one hardcover novel per year through that major New York publisher, but I've also been self-publishing the whole time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So pretty much most of these. So are you saying your Nemesis books are self-published then?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. It's even far more impressive.
It is very impressive to have both a major publishing company and having something self-published as well.
Yeah. I guess
it's not
the
easy
technical
to do your own
term is a
marketing.
hybrid author.
So I mean, in this day and age, especially with ebooks now being a huge thing. I mean, have you had any trouble trying to still push physical books onto people? I mean, especially through self-publishing.
It's definitely slowed down. I still sell them online. It's harder to get them in Barnes & Noble. And there's all sorts of weird things with Barnes & Noble where they will only take one or two novels from a single author per year, just because they can't, have that many books on their shelves.
Yeah.
So to publish between, 8 and 14 novels like I do, then your only option is to self-publish.
Wow. That's incredibly impressive, sir. Now, kind of delving back into the whole kaiju thing, I asked this of every one of our guests coming in. What was the movie that was the bug that bit you?
For kaiju, my favorite kaiju is Godzilla versus Megalon with Jet Jaguar. There's just something about that I've always loved.
It is the most rambunctious of all the films, if you will.
Yeah, it's fun. It just starts out fun with that ridiculous floaty thing.
the giant fish, the fish. I don't even know what the heck it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know, something about Jet Jaguar's design has just always stuck with me. Yeah, so Project Hyperion is kind of my Godzilla versus Megalon book where there's three kaiju and a big robot.
Oh, nice. So I take it's a 2-on-2 fight then.
Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Oh man. Okay, now I gotta get on Amazon and order this thing. So on that note, is there any other ones that you've enjoyed over the years?
Godzilla 2000 really sticks out for me because I actually got to see it in the theater. I had no idea it was coming out. This is back when, you know, the only way you knew a movie was coming out is if you saw a trailer on TV or saw it in the newspaper like I did. So I was just looking to see what was playing, and I saw a Godzilla movie in the theater and kind of freaked out and went and saw it with my wife. And so that was the first time I had ever seen Godzilla in the theater, and was the last time until the American version of Godzilla, the '98 one. Yeah, which was totally disappointing. Oh wait, I just reversed those dates.
Oh no, are you talking about the Warner Brothers one that just came out?
Yeah. Well, I got confused with the '98. Obviously, that came before Godzilla 2000. So yes, I saw Godzilla 2000 and felt that's what the American version should have been.
Yeah, and then Warner Brothers. What did you think of the Warner Brothers one?
I really enjoyed the first 15 minutes. And because I thought, and this, I tried to do this in Nemesis, to have a really good story, kaiju or not kaiju, you have to have characters that you identify with and you care about. In part with Godzilla, you can care about Godzilla, but you have to have a human element that you care about as well, or you're just detached. So I felt like after Bryan Cranston died, I stopped caring about the rest of the characters because he sets it up so well that the other characters you can't possibly care about them so much because they would have to match his acting ability, which they didn't.
No. Well, yeah, that seemed to be the issue. When I talked with a lot of people, it's like, well, once Walter White was gone, it was not until towards the end when I really cared again. And yeah, I mean, there is a bit of the element is that, you know, his character actually had the motivation to pursue these things, and pretty much his son just kind of gets caught up in the whirlwind of everything.
Exactly.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, and Godzilla was cool, but he wasn't presented in a way that made me care about him, other than I naturally care about Godzilla because he has been part of my life. But that's not, you can't bank on that when you're trying to tell a story and make a movie. You know, most of the people who saw that movie don't have that feeling about Godzilla.
This is incredibly true. I mean, just saying something because kaijus are kind of a niche market. I mean, it is saying something that you kind of did take a bit of a risk when you're putting out a book about giant monsters.
Yeah. I just had to do it. It had to be done. And I knew that no one else had done it. Other than the Godzilla novels that came out during the 90s, there hadn't really been any kaiju novels, and there hadn't been any original kaiju novels. All the others were just the four that were published from Godzilla. So I saw an opportunity to do something that I loved and do it first. And that makes it more fun for me.
Well, you did seem to set off a bit of a revolution, because when I was perusing Amazon, there seems to
there's
be
a lot now.
Yeah, there's a rash of these things now, and it's like, it's, you know, like, okay, well, obviously something right was done with Nemesis, that now there's a craving for this kind of thing.
Yeah, when I went on Amazon and I saw my first book that wasn't mine that said a kaiju thriller under the title, and I was like, wow, I created a subgenre. So it didn't exist before.
And not many people can lay that kind of claim.
No, and I wouldn't have expected to, but it kind of just happened.
It did. I mean, kind of thinking you have a very Edgar Rice Burroughs kind of like
Yep.
start to your career, because it seems like you started a little late in the writing, and writing was not your first thing, but once you got into it, you just started knocking just home runs out the park left and right.
Yeah, I wrote, after I realized that I wanted to be a storyteller and that writing was part of that, I wrote for a good 13 years without making a dime, just pumping out screenplays and novels. And they were so bad in the beginning, it's embarrassing. So yeah, it took me 13 years to get to the point where anyone would want to read what I wrote. And even I now look back at my first books and think they're a little bit rough.
So, what I mean, as you mentioned, I think there's this kind of idea with people that, especially today, that trying to talk. I've talked to people in certain industries because I've been trying to get into filmmaking, and a lot of people have said, hey, you're gonna be doing a lot of free things for a lot of people for a long while before you really do anything.
Right.
And don't expect to get paid, but you put your work in, and eventually someone will notice. Would you say that that's some? I mean, from the sounds of what you're saying, that's very apt.
Yeah, I think I've heard that you have to do something for 10,000 hours before you're like an expert at it, and I certainly put in more than 10,000 hours for free with my writing. I think it took me longer than 10,000 hours to become an expert at it. But yeah, with movies it's a little bit different because I feel like you kind of have to put it out there. I wasn't self-publishing everything during those first 13 years. That would have destroyed my career. But movies, I think, need a bit more of an audience and audience feedback to really identify, what needs work and what you can improve on. Whereas with writing, you can have just a few good editors tear it apart.
Was the feedback from Project Nemesis what led to American Gothic Press, publishing your book as a comic?
That happened.
Or did you reach out to them, or they reached out to you?
They reached out to me, and it happened because Matt Frank has done a lot of art for Famous Monsters of Filmland.
Yes, yes.
And Matt has done a lot of art for me and for Nemesis. And Matt has, some creative ownership over the design of Nemesis. And I don't know, half a year ago or so, when they were talking about launching American Gothic Press, they came to Matt and said, would you like to work on a comic book for us? And his response was, yes, but only if it's Nemesis. And so they were like, okay. And so they got in touch with me, and we worked it out from there.
So the book comes out this Tuesday, as we're recording this. Is that correct? The 7th of October, right?
Wednesday.
Okay.
Wednesday.
Yeah, I blanked on that. I should know better.
Are you talking about the comic books?
Yes,
because
I'm talking about the comics.
Wednesday is comic book day.
Yes, I know. I just lost a lot of ground right there.
No,
So Tuesday is novel day.
Yeah. So, comes out Tuesday. Wednesday. Sorry. Wednesday. How long is the run of Nemesis for the series?
This is a miniseries, so it's going to be 6 issues and then published as a trade, which will hopefully be able to send to many movie studios. That's kind of that's the long-term plan for the comic book. Hollywood likes comic books, so
yeah, obviously.
we're going to give them one.
Yeah.
Then I'm pretty sure, I'm like 99% sure that there will be a comic book edition of Island 731, which that happens parallel to Project Nemesis. And then in the second book, Project MyGo, characters from Island 731 join the story. And then in the third book, Project 731, we continue where Island 731 left off, adding Nemesis and Kaiju. So it's kind of like a merging of universes. So we'll be doing Island 731 as a comic book after Nemesis, and then hopefully doing Project MyGo to continue the Nemesis story. But that probably depends on how well Nemesis sells.
Which pretty much means anybody listening to this, go out Tuesday or Wednesday, and go pick up a copy. Pick up 2.
Like true. There are multiple covers. Right now there are 3 different covers of issue number 1. So
yeah, you got a Bob Eggleton cover.
Yep.
And what Matt Frank did a cover?
Matt Frank did a cover.
And then there's an exclusive cover for a comic store in your neck of the woods, isn't there?
Yes, it's Jetpack Comics in Rochester, New Hampshire, and Joshua Belanger did a black and white Nemesis cover. And it's really cool because Nemesis on the cover is in her smaller, almost human form, and she is tackling the owner of the comic book store, Ralph, and me. So she is killing both of us on the cover.
I saw the cover. It was a brilliant little bit of mayhem.
Yeah, and so that one is also available. And I think they're giving it away for free to the first 100 people who order it through their website.
Oh, nice.
You have to pay for shipping, though.
Oh, okay. Well, obviously.
Yeah.
So you mentioned obviously there's intentions of getting Nemesis out there to some studios. Has any other studios been have you been on their radar yet for any of your other books?
Island 731 came very close. A producer wanted it, and he took it to, I don't know if I should say studio names or anything.
You could be vague. I don't want to get you in trouble.
Well, they took it to, the producer was someone who had done a lot of big movies, like the Sherlock Holmes movies with Robert Downey Jr., and they took it to one of the large studios and almost got approval for it, but the studio said no. I'm not sure why they said no, but they did. And a lot of my books I know have gotten into the hands of directors that I really would like them to be made by. But so far, none of the big ones have gone through. My Jack Sigler thriller series has been optioned and is in development right now.
Nice.
So that one is happening, and that is also full of monsters. The book that is being made into a movie is Pulse, and it actually features the Hydra. Brought to life in modern times.
Very nice. Very nice.
In a way, I feel like that's a kaiju story. It's not a Kaiju story like Nemesis is, but all of my books have monsters. I think there's only Second World doesn't have monsters exactly, but it does have killer robots. So
Yes.
I like if you can't have monsters, have killbots. That's the
killbots or Nazi killbots.
Yeah,
so.
Even better.
Who would your director be? Like, who would your dream director would be for the project series?
Oh man, for Project Nemesis, I'm gonna say J.J. Abrams.
Ooh, good choice. Good choice.
Well, yeah, and their Nemesis may have had a close call there already.
Wow. Well, considering that he did produce a movie that was in similar vein to your story, but not as good in my opinion.
The interest is there, and I have never got a firm no, but I have not got a yes.
It's kind of that
hopefully the comic book will push things in the other direction. And I feel, I could be wrong about this, but I think the talk was as a TV series.
Really?
Yeah. So kind of like Fringe with Kaiju.
Good. That would be good. You have more time to tell and develop stories and characters.
Yeah. So that is something I'm hoping for.
Yeah, because when Nemesis reads like a high-end action movie, like the way you describe things, I can see it very clearly in my head. It's got a very like a very awesome late '90s action vibe to it.
Yeah, and I think that happened because my writing experience before novels was comic books and screenplays. So I was always writing visually.
And it works.
And as an artist. So yeah, everything that come out kind of has that visual feel.
Now, a kind of a geeky question here. I noticed that in Nemesis, you opted not to give her any sort of like extracurricular kind of beam weapon. Now, at the end, for those who haven't read it, she does develop like a final transformation that does have a certain power to it, but it's not a direct kind of like a Godzilla ray or a Gamma fireball, if you will.
Right.
Again, I haven't gotten further into your books yet, but is that just kind of like a grounding thing, or is it a matter of I'm trying to think of the words here. I'm kind of fumbling with myself. Pretty much no beams, no weapons.
Right. Well, she has the glowing membranes that if you pierce, they explode.
Yeah.
So all that liquid that's in there is explosive. So she does use that as a weapon. Sometimes she'll plunge her claws into her own chest and just let it spray out. I kind of wanted it to be a little bit more gory and explainable than maybe Godzilla's atomic breath. But in the second novel, I believe it is, and this is maybe a minor spoiler, she does develop a way to projectile vomit the explosive membranes at things.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so she hucks them up like loogies, and they pop and explode.
Awesome. So much awesome. Oh, man. All right. Well, a few final things, because I know you got to get going pretty soon. First off, where can people go to find more of your work?
Best place to go is bewareofmonsters.com. That's my website. And you can sign up for the newsletter, and that will get you all the news on upcoming books and comic books, as well as my new podcast, which I just launched a few weeks ago. I am not the host. I am on it occasionally, but the host is Christopher Willett. And so that's the Beware of Monsters podcast.
Awesome.
So that's at the website as well. You can also find me on Facebook. Let's see if I can remember what my Facebook page address is. So facebook.com/Jeremy Robinson Author is the fan page. And then Twitter is @Jeremy Robinson Author, but I don't really use Twitter, so.
You just kind of have it because all the cool kids have it.
Yeah. Facebook posts to my Twitter, so it looks like I.
Yeah. So that's kind of how we operate. Everything goes on to Facebook, and then just kind of gets spread through there. So it's just so much easier,
Yeah.
You did mention Robinson Fest. Is there any place you will be physically in case fans or other people kind of want to speak with you and talk to you more about your novels?
Yeah, on Wednesday, when the comic book comes out, Matt Frank and I and the variant cover artist, Josh, will be at Double Midnight Comics in Manchester, New Hampshire from 2:30 to 4:30, and then at Jetpack Comics in Rochester, New Hampshire from 6 to 8. So we'll be doing 2 signings on the day the comic is released.
Awesome. And do you? I gotta ask, do you have any plans to come out west for us folk out here who can't make it back east?
I would love to, but there's no current plans. I know that Famous Monsters gets a booth at Comic-Con every year, so maybe we'll make it out next year for Comic-Con.
Awesome. We will be there with spades. You gotta get out to G-Fest one day, too. I think you would be welcome.
Yeah, I do. I have 3 kids, and there's several novel cons that take place on that same weekend every year. Okay. And my daughter's birthday is that same weekend every year.
Okay.
So it's really hard for me to get away for anything during that time of year. But yeah, I would like to get to G-Fest too. That would probably be where I'd feel most at home in terms of conferences.
I think they would welcome you with a red carpet there. So, you got kids, you write a million novels. Where do you find the time to sleep, sir?
I don't. I'm on very little sleep right now. I think I slept 4 hours last night. I actually dropped my family off at the airport this morning, and they are now in California without me. So yeah, they can sign the comic for me.
Okay. All right. Well, on that note, sir, thank you so much for coming on. We will let you go so you can actually get some of that precious sleep.
Thanks for having me.
Now, and again, thank you so much for coming on to our humble little show. Having a nice, renowned author as yourself, grace us. It's quite exciting. We just kind of been talking about this all week when we found out about it. So,
Cool.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Renowned author Jeremy Robinson. As always, you can pick up his books, the Project Nemesis series, on Amazon. And Project Nemesis, the comic book, comes out this Wednesday, October 7th. So go to your local comic stores. If they don't have it, demand it. Put it on your pull list. Because those books sell. We get a lot more. And more kaiju anything is always a good thing. Wouldn't you agree, Jessica?
Yes. I mean, he started the old genre, the kaiju thriller, and now it's kind of taking off, and it's the perfect time as well.
And you're not even certain about it. Matt Frank's doing the art. Come on. You can't say no to Matt Frank.
Yes, the awesome Matt Frank.
So, on that note, Jessica, where can the good people find more of our work?
Yes, you can find us on Facebook as the Kaiju Kingdom Podcast. And we are also on Tumblr as the Kaiju Kingdom Podcast.tumblr.com. We are also on there for Gmail, which is the Kaiju Kingdom Podcast at gmail.com. Now, Twitter is where we differ, and ours is just the Kaiju Kingdom. There is no podcast at the end due to a character limitation for our username.
And where can people find more of your work?
You can always find me on Facebook as Jessica Sang, Tseang. You can also find me on littlegeekgirls.com, thecomicbookgirl.com, and girlongeek.com. Just realize there's a lot of the words girl in there. So it's going to have to...
Seems to be a theme there.
Yes.
And you can find more of my work over at therealmcast.com, where I host a Myrita podcast on there as well. I host the Take Two with my good buddy George Cordero. And the return this week of the Rundown The Flash. It's back, Jessica. It's back.
Yes, on Tuesday.
We get some Jay Garrick action going on in there.
Yes, I mean, Jay Garrick is too young, but, it's CW.
Mm-hmm. He's got to be sexy somehow.
Yep. Oh, God.
So you can find more of my work over there at therealmcast.com. All right. Well, that will do it for this edition of the Kaiju Kingdom podcast. For myself...
And Jessica, hi.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.